April 3rd, 1919, 10:47 p.m. The master bedroom at Winfield Hall, Glen Cove, Long Island. Rain hammers against the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Long Island Sound. Each drop catching the glow of electric chandeliers that cost more than most Americans earned in a decade. Inside, surrounded by pink Italian marble walls worth $2 million, Napoleon's actual golden bed frame, and silk curtains that once hung in a French palace. Frank Winfield Woolworth lies dying. His breath comes in shallow gasps. The infection from a single untreated tooth has poisoned his blood, turning his empire-building body into a battlefield it cannot win. 66 years old. 1,019 stores across America. $76 million to his name, the equivalent of $15 billion in today's currency. He built the tallest building in the world. He created a retail revolution that changed how America shopped. He constructed this fireproof marble palace specifically so his family would have a fortress that would last forever. Yet in 5 days, he will be dead. His wife, sitting in her own bedroom down the hall, her mind ravaged by dementia, doesn't even know where she is. His daughter Edna has been dead for 2 years. Rumors of suicide whispered in Manhattan's finest drawing rooms. And his beloved Winfield Hall, this monument of permanence, this cathedral of marble and ambition, will stand abandoned within a generation, his family never to truly return, their dreams entombed in these very walls. How does an empire built on nickels and dimes crumble so completely? How does a man who rose from absolute poverty to unimaginable wealth leave behind a legacy of tragedy and empty rooms? To understand this answer, we must go back 53 years earlier, to a place as far from marble palaces as the human imagination can conjure. We must go to a failing potato farm in Rodman, New York, where a boy named Frank is learning that poverty has a taste bitter, like the thin soup his mother serves for the third night in a row. Where dreams are dangerous things, and survival is the only ambition that matters. Rodman, New York, 1858. 6-year-old Frank Winfield Woolworth stands barefoot in the dirt, watching his father, John Hubble Woolworth, try to coax life from soil that has forgotten how to give. The farm, owned by Frank's uncle but worked by his parents, produces barely enough to feed the family. John is a devout Methodist, a man who believes hard work and faith will unlock prosperity. He is wrong. Year after year, the crops fail. Year after year. Frank watches his father's back bend further. His mother Fanny's face grow more lined with worry. The Woolworths are respectable people trapped in grinding poverty. The worst kind, because it comes with a memory of better times and the knowledge that they deserve more. Young Frank plays a game with his brother Charles. They call it store. Frank arranges rocks, sticks, anything he can find, in neat rows. He assigns them prices. He practices making change with pebbles. I'm going to be a merchant, he tells his mother when he's only 4 years old. She smiles, tired, not believing. At 16, Frank leaves school. There's no money for more education, and his father needs help. But Frank doesn't want to be a farmer. He applies to every store in the region. Rejection after rejection. No experience, they say. Poor education. Unpromising. The words sting like frost on bare skin. Finally, through sheer persistence, he's accepted, but not as a paid employee, as an apprentice. Free labor. He accepts, desperate for any foothold. His first job is at Augsburg and Moore's Dry Goods in Watertown, New York, 1873. 21 years old, and he's considered a failure. His employers think he's incompetent. He can't handle face-to-face selling. His hands shake when customers approach. His voice cracks. Social anxiety, we call it today. They call it uselessness. He's relegated to washing windows, sweeping floors, the jobs no one else wants. But Frank notices something while cleaning those windows. He watches how merchandise is displayed behind the glass, how certain arrangements catch the eye, how color matters, how height and positioning create desire where none existed before. He begins experimenting, creating window displays that stop passers-by in their tracks. His employer notices. Suddenly, Frank has value. The inept salesman becomes a master of visual merchandising, pioneering a concept that doesn't even have a name yet. That goods should sell themselves. In 1878, Frank hears about a radical idea sweeping through Michigan, the 5-cent counter. Everything priced at 5 cents. No haggling, no negotiation, fixed prices, transparent, democratic, revolutionary. The concept electrifies him. William Moore, his employer, agrees to let Frank open a test store in Great Bend, New York. February 10th, 1878. Frank arranges every item himself, pricing nothing above 5 cents. The store fails within 3 months. The location is wrong. The town too small. Dreams, Frank learns, require more than passion. They require strategy, location, timing, and luck. But Frank Woolworth is not a man who accepts failure as final. He borrows $300, equivalent to about $10,000 today, from Moore and tries again. Utica, New York. February 22nd, 1879. The store opens on a bitterly cold morning. Frank stands behind the counter, his stomach knotted with fear and hope. The store fails in 6 weeks. 2 catastrophic failures in a row. Most men would quit. Frank borrows more money. April 1879. Lancaster, Pennsylvania. This time, something is different. Frank has learned. He's expanded the concept. Not just 5 cents, but 5 and 10 cents. The 5 and dime is born. He chooses a corner location with heavy foot traffic. He makes the store bright, welcoming, organized. Women, the primary shoppers, feel comfortable here. They can browse without intimidation. They can touch the merchandise. They can see the prices clearly marked. No surprise. No judgment. On the first day, the store makes $127.65. Within a year, Frank Woolworth's Lancaster store is thriving. Success breeds ambition. Frank opens another store, then another. By 1886, he has 7 locations. By 1889, 12 stores. The numbers aren't just growing, they're exploding. Frank has discovered something profound about human nature. People will buy things they don't need if the price is low enough and the experience is pleasant enough. He sells ribbons, buttons, combs, toys, candy, household goods. Nothing essential, everything desirable. He buys directly from manufacturers, cutting out the middlemen who inflate prices. He fixes his prices at 5 or 10 cents, making shopping predictable. He creates bright, organized stores where working-class Americans can afford small luxuries. In a rapidly industrializing nation where wealth inequality is creating stark divides, Frank Woolworth offers something precious: dignity in shopping. By 1900, 21 years after his first success, Frank operates 59 stores with sales exceeding $5 million annually, equivalent to $155 million in today's dollars. He's no longer a poor farm boy. He's a phenomenon. He's the merchant prince of America, and he's just getting started. Frank Woolworth has money now. Vast, almost incomprehensible amounts of money. But money alone isn't enough. He needs validation. He needs the world to see that the poor farm boy from Rodman has transcended his origins completely. In 1876, he married Jenny Creighton, a Canadian woman of refined sensibilities. They have 3 daughters: Helena Maud, born 1878, Edna, born 1883, and Jessie May, born 1886. Frank loves his girls with the fierce protectiveness of a man who remembers hunger. He wants to give them everything he never had. He wants to build them a world where they'll never know the shame of poverty, the sting of rejection, the taste of that thin soup. He wants to build them a palace. But first, he builds something else, a decoration. In 1910, Frank decides to construct the tallest building in the world. Not for profit, though it will generate income. Not for necessity, though his company needs headquarters. For glory, for legacy, for proof. He commissions architect Cass Gilbert to design a neo-Gothic skyscraper in Lower Manhattan that will pierce the clouds themselves. The Woolworth building will stand 792 feet tall, 60 stories of steel, terracotta, and ambition. It will cost $13.5 million, equivalent to $314 million today. And Frank Woolworth will pay for it entirely in cash. No loans, no mortgages, no debt. He wants everyone to know the 5 and dime king can build the tallest building in the world with pocket change. April 24th, 1913. The Woolworth building opens. President Woodrow Wilson presses a button in Washington, D.C. that illuminates 80,000 light bulbs inside the building. The ceremony is broadcast across the nation. Reverend S. Parks Cadman calls it the Cathedral of Commerce. The name sticks. Frank Woolworth stands at the top of his tower, looking down on Manhattan, literally and figuratively above everyone who ever doubted him, rejected him, dismissed him. From this height, you can't see the potato farms of Rodman. From this height, the past seems very small indeed. Frank is 58 years old, at the height of his power, and he's ready to build his second monument, one for his family, one that will outlast him, one where the Woolworth dynasty can flourish for generations in marble and magnificence. Glen Cove, Long Island, 1914. The Gold Coast, they call it, where Manhattan's elite builds summer estates to escape the city's heat and chaos. The Vanderbilts are here. The Morgans. The Astors. Old money, mostly. The kind that looks down on new money, like Frank Woolworth, no matter how many millions he's accumulated. Frank doesn't care. He's buying a 16-acre estate with water views of Long Island Sound. There's already a mansion on the property, the Humphreys Estate, built in 1902 by mechanical engineer Alexander Crombie Humphreys. An impressive structure. 35 rooms. Beautifully appointed. Frank takes one look at it and hates it. Too small. Too ordinary. Too reminiscent of the architecture wealthy people have been building for generations. He doesn't want to live in someone else's vision. He wants something unprecedented. Something that makes a statement. Something fireproof. Because Frank Woolworth has learned that the things we love can burn. January. Early morning. A fire breaks out in the Humphreys mansion. Smoke billows from the billiards room. Or maybe the valet's quarters. Accounts differ. Flames spread with terrifying speed to the wooden structure. Despite frantic efforts, the mansion burns to the ground. Millions of dollars in valuables destroyed. Paintings. Furniture. Heirlooms. Frank Woolworth stands watching his property burn. His face is unreadable. Later, people will whisper. They'll say the fire was too convenient. That Frank already had architectural plans drawn up for his dream estate. That he wanted the land cleared. That he never liked the Humphreys house. That Frank Woolworth, who built an empire on 5 and 10-cent transactions, might have had something to do with the fire. No evidence ever surfaces. No investigation produces results. The fire remains mysterious. And Frank has exactly what he needs. A blank canvas. He hires architect Charles Pierpont Henry Gilbert, known for designing Gilded Age estates for America's wealthiest families. I want a palace, Frank tells him, made entirely of marble, fireproof, waterproof, a fortress that will stand for 1,000 years. I want Napoleon's France. I want the Italian Renaissance. I want every room to tell a story. I want people to walk in and forget they're in America. I want my family to be safe here forever. Gilbert sketches. Frank approves. Construction begins immediately, and nothing about this project will be ordinary. 56 rooms, 48,000 square feet, 12 bedrooms, 9.5 bathrooms, 16 fireplaces, walls and pillars made from Italian marble quarried specifically for this project. The exterior, white marble, Italian Renaissance Revival style, with a 5-bay central mass and 4-bay wings. A 1-bay central entrance portico topped with classical columns. Flat roofs in the Italian style, designed to handle snow and rain. Every corner, every surface, designed for permanence. The mansion will be officially named Winfield Hall after Frank's middle name, but everyone will know it simply as the Woolworth Palace. The construction process itself becomes legendary. 700 craftsmen work on the project. Italian stonemasons who barely speak English, but whose hands can shape marble like clay. The marble arrives from quarries in Carrara, Italy, the same quarries Michelangelo used. Each piece is numbered, mapped, and fitted with exacting precision. The cost? $9 million, equivalent to $225 million in today's currency. But the piece de resistance, the element that will become infamous, is the grand staircase. Pink marble from Portugal. Each step hand-carved, the balustrades adorned with classical motifs. The staircase alone costs $2 million, $48 million in modern terms. Frank doesn't flinch at the price. My daughters will walk down those stairs on their wedding days, he says. My grandchildren will play on those steps. This staircase will still be here in the year 3000. He believes it. He needs to believe it. By late 1916, Winfield Hall is complete, and it is breathtaking. Let's walk through it, room by room, as Frank would have shown it to visitors, his chest swelling with pride. You approach from Crescent Beach Road, passing through a marble replica of the Arc de Triomphe, scaled to match Napoleon's original in Paris. Because Frank Woolworth believes he is the living reincarnation of Napoleon Bonaparte, not a metaphor. He literally believes his soul inhabited the French emperor's body in a previous life. This conviction shapes every decision about Winfield Hall's interior design. Through the entrance portico, the front doors are solid oak, 12 feet tall, carved with classical motifs. They open into the Grand Hall, a space that makes grown men gasp. 40 feet wide, 60 feet long, ceiling soaring 25 feet overhead. The walls, white marble veined with gold. The floor, marble inlaid in geometric patterns that took 6 months to lay. Chandeliers imported from France, each one weighing 300 pounds, electrified with the latest technology. Natural light floods through massive windows facing the sound. At the far end, the pink marble staircase ascends like a waterfall frozen in stone. The balustrades are carved with acanthus leaves, roses, and geometric patterns. The newel posts, marble statues of classical figures, each one unique. The effect is overwhelming, not warmth, not comfort, but grandeur so absolute it borders on intimidation. Off the Grand Hall to the right, the drawing room, silk wallpaper in cream and gold, furniture upholstered in French damask, a fireplace with mantel carved from a single piece of marble, depicting a pastoral scene with cherubs and shepherds. Above the fireplace, the Woolworth family crest. Frank commissioned it himself. In the crest, he stands in medieval armor with a knight's helmet. Beside him, his wife Jenny, also in armor, but only her string of pearls is visible, a detail that will haunt historians, suggesting Frank's view of her as decorative rather than essential. Below their figures, painted portraits of their 3 daughters, Helena, Edna, and Jessie. The girls are rendered as angels, their faces serene, their youth eternal. This crest will play a role in the tragedy to come. Beyond the drawing room, the music room, where a Steinway grand piano worth a year's wages for a working-class family sits beneath a ceiling painted with clouds and cherubs. The library, lined floor to ceiling with leather-bound books, many of them first editions, some of them never read. Frank bought them by the yard from estate sales, caring more about appearance than content. The dining room, capable of seating 30 guests, with a table made from a single massive mahogany tree and chairs upholstered in velvet that cost $50 each, a month's rent for most Americans. Upstairs, the second floor reveals Frank's true obsessions. His master bedroom is an exact replica of Napoleon's quarters at Chateau de Malmaison in France. The bed, Napoleon's actual bed, which Frank purchased at auction, dominates the room. A canopy bed with 14-karat gold decorations, velvet curtains, and a mattress that supposedly cradled the emperor himself. Frank sleeps here every night, perhaps hoping some of Napoleon's genius and power will transfer to the fabric of history. Next to his bed, Napoleon's throne, red velvet, gold trim, a seat of absolute power now serving as Frank's reading chair. Connected to Frank's bedroom by a secret passageway, the Empress Josephine room. Here lives Frank's mistress. Her name is never recorded in official documents, but she inhabits this luxurious space, accessible to Frank through a hidden door in the wall paneling. The room is decorated in French Empire style. Silk wallpaper, a 4-poster bed with silk curtains, a vanity table with a Venetian mirror, a private bathroom with a marble tub. The mistress remains hidden from society, a ghost in the palace. Jenny's bedroom is 3 doors down the hall. No secret passage connects it to Frank's. Her room is startlingly simple compared to the rest of the mansion. A single bed, a rocking chair, plain curtains. By 1916, Jenny's dementia has progressed significantly. She spends her days rocking in that chair, staring out the window at the sound, perhaps seeing memories instead of water. She barely recognizes Frank anymore, barely remembers her daughters. The vibrant woman he married 40 years ago has disappeared into fog. Frank, who can buy anything, cannot buy her mind back. The other period rooms are fantasies made real. The Louis XIV room. Gold leaf everywhere. Furniture from Versailles. A bed that supposedly housed the Sun King himself. The Ming Dynasty room. Chinese porcelain, silk screens, lacquered furniture. A fantasy of the Orient constructed by people who've never been to China. The Elizabethan room. Dark wood paneling. Tapestries depicting hunting scenes. Furniture with carved lions' heads. And Marie Antoinette room. Opulent, tragic, decorated in the style of the doomed queen. This room will become infamous. Some say it's where Edna Woolworth, Frank's middle daughter, committed suicide, though official records say she died at the Plaza Hotel in Manhattan. The truth has never been fully established, and the Marie Antoinette room will be locked and sealed after Edna's death, becoming the source of ghost stories and whispered legends. The third floor houses the servants' quarters, 12 rooms for the live-in staff required to maintain this marble monument. The basement contains mechanical systems far ahead of their time, a coal-fired boiler, electrical generators, water filtration, a laundry with industrial washing machines, storage rooms, wine cellars. Beneath the lawn, a 15,000 square foot clock tower building housing an 18-car garage, staff offices, and what will later become a laboratory where Reynolds-wrapped aluminum foil is invented. Outside, the grounds are equally impressive. Formal gardens designed by Italian landscape architects. A tennis court. A greenhouse complex for growing orchids and exotic plants. A marble tea house overlooking the Sound. Stone pathways winding through manicured lawns. Ancient trees imported from Europe. And everywhere marble benches, marble fountains, marble statues. If it can be made from marble, Frank has made it from marble. The total cost of Winfield Hall, including land, construction, furnishings, and landscaping, estimated at $10 million, equivalent to $250 million today. It's a fortune, a spectacle, a testament to human ambition. It's also, though Frank doesn't know it yet, a mausoleum waiting for its ghosts. 1917 to 1918. Winfield Hall is complete and Frank should be happy. He throws lavish parties, dinners for 100 guests, champagne flowing like water, orchestras playing Viennese waltzes in Grand Hall, fireworks over the Sound. Manhattan society attends, curious about this merchant prince and his marble folly. The Vanderbilts come. The Astors send representatives. Everyone wants to see inside the palace built by nickels and dimes. Frank plays the gracious host, showing off his Arc de Triomphe, his Napoleon bedroom, his pink marble staircase. He wants admiration. He receives it mixed with condescension. Old money tolerates him, but doesn't embrace him. He's still trade, no matter how many millions he's accumulated. At night, after the guests leave, Frank walks the halls alone. The marble echoes his footsteps, making the mansion feel less like a home and more like a museum. Jenny sits in her rocking chair, oblivious. His daughters visit occasionally, but have their own lives now. Helena has married Charles McCann and lives in her own mansion nearby. Jessie married James Paul Donahue, heir to a grocery fortune. Both daughters received townhouses from Frank on East 80th Street in Manhattan. Numbers 2, 4, and 6 East 80th Street. 3 connected limestone mansions worth millions. Edna, the middle daughter, married Franklin Laws Hutton, a stockbroker. They have a daughter, Barbara, born in 1912. Frank adores Barbara, his granddaughter, his legacy. But Edna is unhappy. Rumors circulate that Franklin is unfaithful, that he has mistresses, that the marriage is crumbling. Edna lives at the Plaza Hotel in Manhattan when she's not at Winfield Hall. She's 33 years old, wealthy beyond imagination, beautiful, and profoundly miserable. She visits her father regularly, though the visits are strained. Frank doesn't understand sadness. He defeated poverty through willpower. He built an empire through determination. Why can't Edna simply choose to be happy? He doesn't understand depression, the invisible weight that no amount of marble can lift. May 2nd, 1917. Evening. Frank is hosting a party at Winfield Hall. One of his grand affairs. 200 guests, music, champagne, laughter echoing through marble halls. At the Plaza Hotel in Manhattan, Edna Woolworth Hutton, retires to her apartment early. She's not feeling well. She tells the staff. She wants to be alone. She locks her bedroom door. What happens next depends on who you ask. The official story: Edna dies of suffocation caused by mastoiditis, an ear infection that blocks the airways. The death certificate, signed by a coroner named Feinberg, lists natural causes. No autopsy is performed. Feinberg declares one unnecessary. But rumors spread immediately. Witnesses claim Edna put on her finest lace dress, wrote several letters, and drank a vial of poison. Some say arsenic, some say laudanum. The letters, if they existed, were destroyed or hidden. The police don't investigate. Frank Woolworth has connections. Money silences questions. At Winfield Hall, during the party, something inexplicable happens. The marble family crest above the fireplace in the drawing room, the one with the painted faces of Frank's 3 daughters, develops a crack. A lightning bolt crack that runs directly through Edna's painted face, splitting it from forehead to chin. The crack appears while Frank is in the same room, surrounded by guests. Some witnesses say they heard a sharp cracking sound, like a pistol shot. Others claim it was silent, that the crack was only noticed later. A severe thunderstorm was passing over Long Island that night. Lightning struck nearby several times. The official explanation: lightning somehow cracked a marble in that exact spot at that exact moment. The crack destroys only Edna's face. Helena and Jesse's portraits remain untouched. The rest of the crest remains pristine. Just Edna, just her face, split down the middle. News of Edna's death reaches Winfield Hall within hours. Frank receives a telephone call in his study. He hangs up the phone. He dismisses the party guests curtly, without explanation. The mansion empties. Frank sits alone in his Napoleon bedroom, staring at the golden bed frame, and reportedly weeps for hours. The only time anyone ever sees a merchant prince cry. Edna is buried quietly. The press is respectful, avoiding the suicide rumors. High society whispers but doesn't publish. 4-year-old Barbara Hutton loses her mother and will grow up under the shadow of that loss, becoming the poor little rich girl whose tragic life will eclipse even her grandfather's story. After Edna's death, strange things reportedly happen at Winfield Hall. Servants claim to hear a woman cry in the Loch Marie Antoinette room. The room, some believe, is where Edna actually died, not the plaza. Footsteps echo down hallways when no one is there. The organ in the music room sometimes plays by itself. Witnesses claim, always the same mournful tune. A figure in a lace dress is seen wandering the gardens at night, disappearing when approached. Frank dismisses these stories as superstition, but he orders the Marie Antoinette room permanently locked. No one enters it again during his lifetime. The First World War is ending. The Spanish flu pandemic sweeps the globe, killing millions. America is changing. The world is changing. Frank Woolworth, 66 years old, is not changing. He still walks the halls of Winfield Hall in Napoleon's old uniforms, which he purchased at auctions. He sits on Napoleon's throne, reading financial reports. He visits the stores unannounced, still testing employees by shoplifting to see if they're paying attention. He oversees an empire of over 1,000 stores. He's worth approximately $76 million, equivalent to nearly $2 billion in today's currency. He's one of the wealthiest men in America, but he's tired. His daughter is dead. His wife doesn't know who he is. His marble palace feels less like a triumph and more like a cage. The parties have stopped. The guests don't come anymore. It's just Frank, the servants, and the echoes. January 1919. Frank develops a toothache, a simple cavity in a molar. His dentist advises extraction. Frank refuses. He's afraid of dentists, an ironic fear for a man who conquered so much. He decides to let it heal on its own. It doesn't heal. The infection spreads to the root, then to the jaw, then to the bloodstream. By March, Frank is seriously ill. By April, he's bedridden. Septic shock, bacterial infection in the blood. Today, antibiotics would cure it easily. In 1919, it's a death sentence. April 3rd, 1919. Frank lies in Napoleon's bed in his master bedroom at Winfield Hall, dying slowly. His 2 surviving daughters, Helena and Jessie, sit with him, Jenny is in her own room, unaware. Frank's lawyers arrive with a revise we've been working on for years, a complex document that establishes trusts, divides assets strategically, protects his granddaughter Barbara. Frank tries to sit up to sign it. He can't. His hand shakes too much. The pen won't cooperate. Tomorrow, he whispers. I'll sign it tomorrow. But Frank Woolworth has no tomorrows left. April 8th, 1919, 2:17 a.m. 5 days before his 67th birthday, Frank Winfield Woolworth dies in his palace. In Napoleon's bed, surrounded by marble that will long outlast his memory. Because he never signed a revised will, the old will from 1889, a simple document written when he was poor, becomes operative. That ancient will leaves everything to his wife, Jenny, with no restrictions, no trusts, no protections. Jenny, who hasn't recognized her own daughters in 3 years. Jenny, whose dementia means she's legally unable to manage money or make decisions. The entire estate, all $76 million, goes to a woman whose mind is gone. The funeral is magnificent. Thousands attend. The Woolworth building lowers its flags to half-mast. Every Woolworth store in America closes for a day of mourning. Frank is entombed in a marble mausoleum at Woodlawn Cemetery in the Bronx, a structure that echoes Winfield Hall's architecture. But the legal chaos has just begun. Jenny Woolworth, now the wealthiest widow in America, lives 5 more years in a fog of dementia. She rocks in her chair at Winfield Hall, sometimes humming, sometimes crying, sometimes laughing at invisible things. Helena and Jesse petition the courts to be named administrators of their mother's estate, which is technically their father's estate. Legal battles drag on. When Jenny finally dies in 1924, her estate is valued at $57.5 million. $20 million less than Frank left, eaten up by mismanagement, legal fees, and the chaos of having a mentally incompetent person technically in charge of a fortune. The inheritance is divided. Helena and Jesse receive millions. Barbara Hutton, Edna's daughter and Frank's beloved granddaughter, inherit approximately $28 million outright at age 12. Plus a trust that will give her another $22 million when she turns 21. In total, Barbara inherits the equivalent of over $1.5 billion in today's currency. She becomes one of the richest women in the world. The poor little rich girl whose 7 marriages, addictions, eating disorders, and tragic life will become tabloid legend. The press will haunt her until her death in 1979, alone and nearly broke, having spent or been swindled out of most of her fortune. And Winfield Hall, the palace Frank built to last forever? Helena and Jesse don't want it. The mansion is too expensive to maintain. $250,000 annually in today's dollars just for staffing and utilities. It's too large, too ostentatious, too filled with ghosts. In 1929, they sell it to Julia Louise Parham Richards Samuel Reynolds Sr., wife of the Reynolds Metals Company founder. The Reynolds family has money, aluminum foil money, lots of it. They move in with grand plans. They'll turn part of the clock tower building into a research laboratory. They'll modernize. They'll make Winfield Hall relevant again. But the Depression hits. The world changes. By 1945, the Reynolds convert portions of Winfield Hall into corporate offices and research facilities. The clock tower becomes a laboratory where, ironically, Reynolds wrap aluminum foil is perfected. Humble aluminum foil invented in a palace built by a man who sold 5-and-dime goods. The symmetry is almost poetic. But the mansion is no longer a home. It's a facility. The marble halls echo with the sounds of typewriters and scientific equipment, instead of music and laughter. Grace Downs, a visionary educator, purchases Winfield Hall. She transforms it into the Grace Downs Academy, a finishing school for young women. 30 girls at a time live in the mansion, learning secretarial skills, modeling, charm, etiquette, how to be stewardesses, secretaries, wives of important men. The students call it Glamour Manor. And for 20 years, the palace lives again, filled with young voices and dreams. But strange things continue to happen. Students report hearing crying from the locked Marie Antoinette room. 2 women die mysteriously after spending time in that room. One a heart attack, one in a car accident. The legends grow. The ghost of Edna Woolworth, they whisper, still walks these halls. Martin T. Carey, brother of former New York Governor Hugh Carey, purchases Winfield Hall. Carey is a petroleum magnate and a preservationist. He loves Gilded Age architecture. He vows to restore Winfield Hall to its former glory. He begins renovations, carefully preserving the marble, the staircase, the period rooms. He lives in the mansion, hosting occasional historical society tours. For the first time in decades, Winfield Hall is cherished again. But Carey is fighting a losing battle against time and economics. Maintaining a palace requires endless money, and even oil fortunes have limits. January 28th, 2015, 10:30 a.m. A fire breaks out at Winfield Hall, eerily echoing the 1916 fire that destroyed the original mansion on the property. The flames start on the first floor and spread rapidly to the attic in the east wing. Over 100 firefighters from 8 towns respond. They fight the blaze for hours, pouring water onto flames that refuse to die. The fire causes significant damage to portions of the mansion. Not catastrophic, but heartbreaking. And just like the 1916 fire, no one could determine how it started. Electrical malfunction? Accident? Deliberate? The fire remains mysterious. Another tragedy added to Winfield Hall's collection. Martin Carey dies in June 2020 at age 93. His estate includes Winfield Hall and the neighboring Kashelmer Mansion. In 2021, both properties are put up for auction. Winfield Hall, which cost Frank Woolworth $10 million a build, $250 million in today's dollars, is listed with a starting bid of $7 million. A bargain. A steal. Except it's not, because whoever buys Winfield Hall will need to spend additional millions on restoration. The second and third floors have been altered by decades of institutional use. The clock tower building is essentially abandoned. The grounds need extensive work. It's a project for a billionaire with patience, vision, and passion for history. Today, Winfield Hall stands, scarred by fire, weathered by time, but standing. The marble remains. The pink staircase endures. The Arc de Triomphe guard the entrance. The ghosts, if you believe in them, still walk the halls. But no Woolworth has ever returned to live here. Helena died in 1938. Jessie in 1971. Barbara Hutton, the last direct descendant of Frank Woolworth, died in 1979, lonely and broken despite her billions. The dynasty ended. The family scattered. The dream of a fortress that would shelter generations proved as fragile as Frank's infected tooth. Why did the Woolworth family never return to their dream estate? The easy answer, tragedy and practicality. Edna's death, suicide or not, cast a shadow over the mansion that never lifted. Frank's early death left the estate in legal chaos. The cost of maintaining a palace proved impossible for heirs with their own lives, their own homes, their own tragedies to navigate. But the deeper answer is more complex and more universally human. Frank Woolworth built Winfield Hall to defeat death. Not literally, but symbolically. He built it to prove that a boy from a failing potato farm could create something eternal. He built it to house a dynasty. He built it as a fortress against the poverty and rejection that had defined his youth. But what Frank didn't understand, what none of us truly understand until it's too late, is that buildings are just buildings. Marble is just stone. Palaces are just houses with more rooms. They can't keep death out. They can't prevent sadness. They can't force families to stay when tragedy strikes. They can't buy happiness or health or meaning. Frank Woolworth was a visionary. He revolutionized retail. He democratized shopping. He built an empire on the principle that everyone deserves access to small luxuries. But he was also a man who believed that success meant building the biggest, the tallest, the most expensive. He measured his worth in marble and millions. He built a palace that no one wanted to live in because it was never about comfort or joy. It was about proving something. To old money, to his parents who doubted him, to the store owners who rejected him, to himself. And when he died, that need for validation died with him. His daughters didn't need to prove anything. They had their own lives, their own fortunes, their own definition of success. The Woolworth story is a parable about ambition and its limits, about the difference between building wealth and building a home. about how trauma, Frank's poverty, Edna's suicide, Barbara's motherless childhood, echoes through generations, no matter how much money tries to silence it. About how the things we build to last forever often crumble faster than we imagined, while the things we can't see, love, memory, regret, endure. Winfield Hall is listed on the National Register of Historic Places. It's a landmark. Architectural historians call it one of the finest surviving examples of Gilded Age excess. Parts of it have been restored. Taylor Swift filmed her Blank Space music video there. The mansion's marble halls standing in for romantic obsession and decay. Tourists occasionally visit during historical society tours, walking the same pink marble staircase Frank's daughters descended, standing in the grand hall where Edna's painted face cracked during a thunderstorm, photographing the marble Arc de Triomphe that guards an empty estate. The current owner, whoever emerges from the auction, will become the next steward of Frank Woolworth's frozen dream. Perhaps they'll restore it fully, hosting events, preserving history. Perhaps they'll subdivide it, turning it into luxury condominiums. Perhaps it will continue to decay slowly, marble weathering, the ghost of Edna wandering the gardens, until eventually someone decides it's too expensive to save and demolishes it, sending Frank's $10 million palace the way of so many Gilded Age mansions, into memory and dust. But for now, Winfield Hall stands, a testament to one man's incredible rise from poverty to unimaginable wealth, a monument to ambition, vision, and the American dream, a reminder that you can build a fireproof palace but not a tragedy-proof life. A question mark in marble. What do we really leave behind? Money passes to heirs and disappears. Buildings crumble. But stories about a farm boy who changed retail forever, who built the tallest building in the world with pocket change, who commissioned a marble palace that his family abandoned within a generation. Stories endure. On April 8, 1919, Frank Winfield Woolworth died believing his marble fortress would shelter his family for generations. He was wrong about the palace, but he was right about something else. We remember him. We walk through his mansion and feel the weight of his ambition. We stand at the top of his Woolworth building and see the world as he saw it. We shop in stores that evolved from his five-and-dime empire. He built something eternal after all, just not the thing he intended. The wind still moves through Winfield Hall's marble halls. The rain still hammers the windows overlooking Long Island Sound. The pink staircase still climbs toward rooms no Woolworth will ever inhabit again. And somewhere in the locked Marie Antoinette room, or in the echo of footsteps on marble, or in the crack through Edna's painted face on the family crest, the ghosts of America's first retail dynasty remember what it felt like to believe that money could buy forever. They were wrong. But God, what a beautiful mistake.